always wanted to stay in shape, but they were always pushing cardio, whereas I like to feel physically strong. So I actually started a powerlifting and a strongman team while I was serving, and led a bunch of competitions and stuff, which was great. But then when I got out, I've kept up the training, being a competitive Highland Games athlete in Scotland. No, I have some Scottish blood in my from my grandparents, but no, I'm from South Wales. I sound English because my mother is from Plymouth, but both my parents met in Swansea Uni and then never left. Well, my dad's from the valleys. But he's got a very mild accent as well, so I always used to get beaten up in school for being a posh twat. But always knew I wasn't quite on the same page as the other kids in school, but at the same time, I really disdained the idea of taking assistance in any way, because there was always kids with teaching assistants or the free laptop or this and that. But it was just a bit of a pride thing as a kid, saying like, no, whatever I get, I want to just do it on my own without any extra, So it was funny. It was I'd be able to get on well with other kids who were a bit more of the nerdy crowd, a bit more on the spectrum and stuff. But I was always sort of pushing myself to basically hide it and work with it so I could, socialise with the more popular kids. And so there's a lot of, working on myself and essentially masking and this sort of stuff. Well, I guess it was the main thing is it gives you a lot of social blind spots, and by definition, blind spots are things you can't see. But it was that thing of people are seeing me as eccentric, and so I thought, well, why shrink away from it? Why not just own it, be extrovert with it, and just have it as a litmus test? Because you can try as hard as you can to just not necessarily be normal, but to be able to fit in and integrate and work socially. But again, there's that line where it's a case of, all right, I'm going to go up to this point, but beyond that, I'm just compromising too much of who I am, and that's not worth it. So I found out a decent balance where I could get the most out of my social interactions, and I felt like people around me got more from hanging out with me. But beyond that point, it was a case of, okay, well, this is me and I'm not willing to go any further. But then if you just extrovert enough with it, and I think in the words of Kurt Cobain, I'd rather be hated for who I am than be loved for who I'm not. And it's that thing of just be extrovertly who you are, and madness and all. And if people are into it, then open arms. Whereas if they're not into it, then they have other people they can hang out with. There's that weird combination of being physically fit, outdoors, active, but also thinking outside the box a lot more, and not really being into the team games like football and all the other popular stuff. So still massively into chess and Warhammer and this kind of thing. But and massively into science fiction, whereas other kids would be like, I don't get it. You're healthy, but you like books, and like but just not really wanting to settle for what was in front of me. So I would try and figure out ways of doing stunts, because I liked stunt movies and things like this. So if there was a vehicle coming into the school and it had, say, a ladder on the back of it, if it was driving along, it's kind of run along, match the speed a bit, jump on and grab the ladder, like, hey! Skitching rides and stuff, or jumping between roofs of buildings when teachers weren't looking. Knocked myself out once doing that. Just that's it, not really settling for the normal forms of entertainment through just mundane small talk and just getting out there and wanting to do stuff. So, well, that's a very broad thing. I mean, it means something different to everyone who has it. It always expresses itself differently. There's many, many symptoms. Nobody has all of them, and everyone's got a different combination of them, and to greater or lesser degrees. Yeah, it could do with situations when just feeling totally overwhelmed. You kind of... There is that thing of... You almost... It's just that fight or flight thing when things get too wound up. Because, you know, I'm working on developing a better relationship with my emotions, and, you know, so at the moment, when they turn up, it's generally because things have risen to a point when they're no longer containable, they're too big to keep under, and but then also there's the lack of familiarity, so I don't really know how to work with them very well. At the end, there's this guy comes in who's her anchor, her, you know, something that she can really rely on and feel secure with. But at the same time, she was so stressed out with the other stuff that, you know, words like divorce jump to mind, because it really is that thing when, you know, it's just the need to escape when things get too intense, and it's just, you know, fuck it all, just like, you know, whether it's, yeah, and, you know, it's obviously if you take it to extremes, then there's temptation towards permanent solutions to temporary problems, and, you know, that's an issue as well. But yeah, you can end up with those thoughts once in a while, but yeah, there's definitely more constructive ways to... Yeah, you know, it's it's unfortunate. There's a lot of psychology which is helpful, and, you know, therapy and whatever, but it's mostly geared for, you know, female minds. Reason is that obviously guys tend to not get help so readily, so then, you know, the most people that psychologists have to work with are women, and so then most of the models for therapy are built around women, and so then when as a bloke you turn up to therapy, you get treated like a malfunctioning woman as opposed to the bloke that you actually are, and the therapy doesn't fit, and then it's just like, well, okay, I'm getting nothing out of this.
Have you had therapy?
People have attempted to give me therapy, and you know, I'm just turning up week after week, and they're just like, okay, pat your legs while I'm like, what is this? Yeah, I mean, it's got 4 major directions in which it'll express itself, and the one that is probably least common, but is the most damaging to people and those around them, is when you sort of project outwards all of the issues you have, and yeah, I've met people like that, and, you know, it does give BPD a bad name, but I'm much more of the introverted kind of, if something's going wrong, I will essentially, rather than focusing on anything outside of myself, because I got no control over what goes on around me, so in an attempt to get control, I end up focusing all of my frustrations inwards, but sometimes I can go further than just problem solving and changing of habits, and it can end up being turning into a negative internal talk. So that can sort of, yeah, be bad for self-perception and mood and various other things. But, you know, it's yeah, BPD does express itself in different ways. To be honest, I got assessed with these things in 2018 when I was in the army, and got medically discharged for it. But like I was saying, as a kid, I never wanted, I knew something was up, but I never wanted to identify as somebody with a problem, you know, or be a victim or anything. And it was just a case of, right, how am I going to work my way around this? What am I going to do to manage it? And in the same way, you know, if there's somewhere that I can see where there's a direct conflict between how I'm trying to live and the symptoms I'm having, then I'll engage with it directly. But other than those instances, and also I generally try and figure out a lifestyle that works with it, as opposed to you know, just do something that's inherently not suited to my condition. You know, why would you want to go and kick an internal hornet's nest? That's just not wise. So yeah, I'm pretty ignorant of a lot of the stuff, because the more I research it, the more my mental focus will go into it, and the more I'll identify as it. Whereas if I just crack on and I just, you know, focus on the people and the situations around me, and I just, you know, focus on what I'm good at and how I can really engage, then, you know, I'm focusing on my strengths, I'm creating positive cycles and can actually feel pretty good about it. Whereas yeah, I've never really had a great amount of success in feeling good by excessively researching what I do. And yeah, I think that knowledge can often be similar to food. You asked a little while ago about how I developed myself physically? Well, another way of looking at it would be that I love food. My body is the intersection between gluttony and vanity, because I get to eat everything I want as long as I burn it off. So I ended up being pretty big because I love food. But in the same way, knowledge is pretty similar to food in my opinion, because if you are taking in information and knowledge and you're using it, then you can become a very influential and powerful person, and you're actually using what you've got. Whereas if you just get a book or a video course or lessons of any other kind and you learn things, but then you sit on it and you don't do it, that's just like intellectual gluttony. It's you just mentally you just feel fat and lazy. In the same way that if you consume food that you don't use, it's bad for your body. I think that you got to be selective about what information you take in and how you're going to use it. I mean, of course, there's things like just pure entertainment, like movies or just some light-hearted book or whatever. But if you are learning stuff that is increasing knowledge, then it has potential to be used. Use it. Yeah, I mean, sometimes that can happen, and combined with the Asperger's, it's a really great one, because not that good at social cues sometimes, so I can't always tell when people are joking. So then someone's just friendly taking the piss out of something, and then so I've done 5 hours on some risk assessment for fire, and some fire shows I do. And then someone says something just taking a piss, and then it's like, right! One of the other big things I get, though, is not being able to... So, for example, somebody might say, how's it going? But, whether they mean, I just want you to say, all right, back, as a 2-second thing, or they're actually asking, how are you doing, and more information going into detail. So, generally speaking, I'll just assume that they want the one-word response. But if I start to elaborate, it's just like getting the brakes on, because I will just end up, and then it's that whole thing of they want to go somewhere else, or the conversation has reached the end of interest for them, but I'm just still going. And like the number of times I walk in on myself doing that, it's like, whoa, okay. But one of them things. I have issues, but I still am able to just generally function as a productive member of society, whereas people who are suffering more severely, less case, and so then that's the I guess the distinction between high functioning and not. Some people get a bit funny about the term high functioning and categorization of Asperger's versus autism versus and all these other things, and it's an overlap, it's a spectrum. No, it's not, it's totally different. And like I said, there's just so many different points of views and different people who almost but that's the thing. Some people will say that Asperger's and autism are both spectrums, but they're separate spectrums with no overlap. And then some people are saying it's they're both different bits of the same spectrum, and people actually get really emotionally involved in this. It's just a label. It's just something that's helping me work through different symptoms and how to discuss things when I'm imagining it. If you want to get precious about it, go nuts. But I got better things for my energy.